All right, welcome everybody to our Monday night skills call. My name is Danielle Lover, and I'm super excited to have you guys on with us tonight. I know a bunch of people are going to be jumping on right now, but we're going to get it started so that we can respect everybody's time. As you know, we are doing a special series. Let me mute some people here. A special series just for the last 2 months of the year where we're having some really awesome guest speakers. And I'm really pumped about tonight. I'm going to introduce our two speakers in just 1 second, but I did want to just make one kind of housekeeping announcement. Sorry, guys, I've got a tickle in my throat. I know a lot of you have been having issues with recommended carts where there is a glitch right now where when you send a new recommended cart to a client, it is showing a little warning, not a warning, a little pop-up is showing that they're signing up for Replenish Me. That's not supposed to be there. It is a technical error, and they're working really hard to get that fixed. So if you are sending out a replenish, or if you're sending out a recommended cart right now, and your client is sending you back a screenshot and saying, am I signing up for Replenish Me, or am I signing up for an auto shipment? Hopefully in the next couple of days that will be rectified. But I just wanted to give you that, guys, give you that little announcement just because a lot of people have been asking that recently. So no worries, that's getting taken care of. I'm super excited about all that's happening in November, you guys. I feel like our excitement is through the roof. We have so many people that are working for the VP promotions that are happening right now for reduced quals for RVP and for MVP. And even though it's just what is today, the 11th, the 12th, the 11th, we're seeing so much excitement, and numbers are up in volume and in sponsoring. And so I'm just so proud of everybody in the success line. And a few sidelines that are joining us for this series as well. So tonight we have two amazing speakers. I know several of you know who they are and probably follow them on social media. And I actually just about 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to ask these two, because what I love about them, there's so many things I love about them individually. But what I love about the two of them is that they have built such an incredible friendship. And I've kind of just watched this play out on social media. They'll share their story, but they don't benefit from each other. They're not in the same teams. And that is one of the things that I love so much about Arbonne, is just the community that we have. And so just watching these two fantastic gals just blow up their Instagram presence and blow up their businesses, and just also have this really awesome camaraderie with each other. I was like, can you two just talk share with our groups, like, why accountability is important, share your story, share what's working for you. Because I can just tell that they're in this, this stage of business where it's just authentic momentum. It doesn't look like hype. It doesn't look like they're going crazy. They're not desperate. They're just building really classy, solid, sustainable businesses. And I want you guys to hear from people like that are just doing it for the longevity, not just to chase a title or not just to grow the biggest following. I just think what they're doing is really incredible. And I asked them, they were super excited to jump on together, and I'm pumped for this training as well. So just a little bit of background for those of you that might not know who they are. We have Cassie Smith and Mckenzie Ryan. So Mackenzie's the brunette, Cassie's the blonde. And they have both been in Arbonne for about 7-8 years. They're both moms of two. They're both into personal fitness, wellness, athletics. Mute some lines here. Sorry, guys. Mckenzie is a soon-to-be coach's wife, which I can totally relate to. Her fiance coaches at a different level than my husband does. He's a varsity coach, but we are in the thick of basketball season around here, and I can relate to you in that. But these ladies, I'm going to read to you actually a sentence from each of their little bios that they sent me, because I just loved it so much. Mckenzie said, I'm a lover of Jesus, fitness, and travel, and I'm on mission to help people know they are worthy, loved, and heard. And Cassie said, helping people uncover their God-given gifts and realize that they were born on purpose, for a purpose, and with a purpose. And I just think this sums up kind of everything I just said about them, but their heart behind growing this business and just their willingness to share with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to the two of you, and thank you so much for giving your time to our success line tonight.
Oh my gosh. Well, Danielle, thank you for the sweet introduction. It almost made me kind of emotional because Cassie, I just love you so much. I'm so grateful for our partnership. And you guys, what you see on Instagram is we have a lot of bloopers and a lot of fun, but just having like our kids together has been the most special gift. And that's what you guys get from this business is friendships that last a lifetime. And then your kids get to grow up with one another. And like I would trust Cassie with my kids over and over and over again because I know what kind of mother she is and wife and all the things. So it's such a huge blessing. But I'm going to just dive into my story and then I'm going to turn over to Cassie. So I started my business 7 years ago. I said no to 7 other network marketing companies. I was very much anti network marketing. I was like, okay, their pyramid schemes, blah, 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 whatever. But it's so funny because I really needed an ego check because I was like, in such a bad place in my life. I could not afford anything. I had to borrow Christmas decorations for my mom. I remember, and being a young mom myself, I was like, okay, this cannot be forever. Like, I can't even afford Christmas decor. And all I wanted, honestly, when I started was enough money to pay for healthier groceries, a little bit nicer gym membership to a gym that I really wanted to go to, and maybe a bill or two, like an electricity bill or something. Actually, our electric bill even got shut off at one point. So I was a really young mom. I had Becca, my first, he's 9 when I was 21. And so I went to school for nursing and I found like God really pushed me in a different direction. I think I just did that because I was good at school. And then I figured out, holy crap, you are an empath. You cannot do nursing, sister. Like my hats are off to nurses because it's a very hard job. And so I loved health and wellness and I loved working out and I actually did love social media, but I wasn't heavily on it, I guess. I just knew I wanted to do something where I could stay at home. So insert Arbonne, my upline Molly Croker, God love her. She went to high school with my mom. She asked my mom to take a look at it. My mom said no. And she's like, you should talk to my daughter because she's broke. She doesn't have friends. She's lonely, all the things. And so I was like, Mom, why did you tell her I was going to meet with her? Like, I don't want to do one of those things, whatever. And I had no idea who this Molly chick was at the time. So I met with her and I was like, wow. Like I did not join Arbonne. I joined Molly Croker. And that's kind of like my first tip is what is your energy like when you go to the meeting? Because I loved her excitement for life. I felt hope for the first time. I saw the comp plan and I was like, wait a minute, like you can make how much? And you were a sports medicine physical therapist and you've been retired for 18 years. And I just thought more people on Facebook did these things. So I was
Yeah,
blown
police
away.
often do.
Um, so I dove in. I was very coachable and all in. I actually had to sell shoes to afford my 30 days healthy living to start my business. And it was $79 at the time. And I had to borrow that money from my kids' dad at the time. And that's how I started is I was like, well, there's a way. I had to figure it out because I couldn't afford it, but I knew I wanted to be all in. So about 3 years into my business, promoted to the top level of the company. And then actually 2 months ago, we lost our nation and we're on track to go nation qual again this month. So it's like, it's crazy how up and down like your business can be. I went through a really hard divorce and this business financially took care of my kids the last 3 years and myself because I took care of it. I worked my fanny off. I never got any help from their dad financially and I stayed home full time and I did everything on my own. And that was the biggest epiphany to me. I was like, holy crap, like this business took care of me. Like I needed this so bad. And so many people out there are praying for it. So I started also very introverted. And I will say this, part of my introvertedness was actually lack of self-belief. Like I didn't believe in myself. And that's why I didn't put myself in situations. And then, oh, here's my daughter. So I was very introverted. I had no belief in myself. And I started in a really small town. Hang on one second. Okay, so I grew up in a really small town and I had like no friends when I started. I told Molly, I was like, I'm very introverted. I don't know how I'm going to work this networking business. So I had a ton of limiting beliefs. I had all the excuses I'm sure I could have had, but I knew that I wanted to grow. And this is very much what changed everything. I just honestly pursued growth more than anything. So Cass, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, friends. My name is Cassie Smith, and Danielle, thanks for having us. We're kind of going to go back and forth a little bit today. And if you don't know me, I'm I feel like very vulnerable in how I train and very casual. And so I love when Danielle reached out and she was like, okay, what's working? What's not working? I'm like, sweet. She wants the real deal. And so it's funny because even just while Kenzie was sharing her story, I was looking around at some of the faces that are on tonight. And so many of you have just inspired and encouraged me in my Arbonne journey. And so it's just really cool. I'm so grateful for this community, and it's so crazy how much you don't realize the impact that you have on other people. And so I just want to share that so many of you on this call have done that for me. So thank you. And a couple things that I love about Kenzie's story before I share about my story. One thing we didn't share is that we actually went nation at the same time. And it's funny because our uplines, like we have a very similar story, but our uplines connected, and Kristen Walter is my upline and Molly Croker is her upline. And I specifically remember because we were on an AIT trip and Kristen was super protective over me because I was super new in the business. And Molly was like, Kenzie and Cassie should be friends. And Kristen was like, tell me everything about her. What's her web stats? What's this? Is she driven? Like, she was like interviewing Molly Croker about Kenzie, and Molly's like, no, she's legit. Like, they need to be friends. And it's so funny because we learned about this later. And then, obviously became really good friends and went nation together. And then, she actually came out to visit with her son in Colorado. And so we actually had a picture when she came to visit again this last week of both of our kids, like, a couple of years apart, which is just really cool. Like how this community really brings people together. And so like Danielle said, we have nothing to do with each other's businesses. And we'll get to that and talk about that here in a minute. But a couple things I love about Kenzie's story, you guys, is it's a story of no excuses. When people are like, I don't have time, I don't have money, you guys, nobody does. And Kenzie, like, I love the part of her story that she sold shoes on Facebook Marketplace. Like, are you willing to do things or get creative? And I think that is one of my top tips for success in this business is you constantly have to be creative. You constantly have to be problem solving. And so a lot of times, and I do this in coaching calls, which we'll also talk about that in a minute because Kenzie has changed my life with these. But in coaching calls with my team, we'll get on and we'll have conversations. And a lot of it is like they present problems. And then I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do about that? And so in this business, you always have to be solving problems and you have to train your brain to think that way. And I love that so much about Kenzie's story, that she realized that her being, introverted, she's really, if you get to know her, like she tells me these things about her and I'm like, really? That was you? Like you were introverted and you had no friends? Like you're so social and easy to love and like all the things, and she isn't that person, but it was just a lack of confidence. And so where do you need to be courageous? Because courage builds confidence. And she was courageous. She sold shoes. She started this business. She said yes. And then that built her confidence because she said yes. It didn't look perfect. She started because it's kind of like how people, they always say, you go to the gym before you're in shape. You're not in shape before you go to the gym. And this business has been that. So a little bit of my story. My name's Cassie Smith. I'll try to be kind of quick with my story so we can get to some of the good stuff. But I started when my daughter was 3 weeks old. So I had just turned 25 when I started this business, and very similar to Ken's, my mom's best friend actually introduced me to my sponsor. And so you never know. I always joke because Kristen Walter had started her business 10 years before I came into her business. And so your next direct nation, and Ken's and I are going to talk about this later, but your next direct leader or nation might come in the future. They might not be 18 yet. I think I was 14 or 15 when Kristen started her business. And I'm sure Ken's can share her age, with where Molly was at too. And so, but because Kristen was consistent all those years, Deb, my mom's friend, Deb, thought, oh my gosh, I need to introduce you to Cassie. And so I was kind of, I was a new mom. My brother and I had an insurance agency, and I was really looking for more time and choices. And I think really what sums up where I was at in my life, my husband was a full-time pastor at a large church out in Vegas. And then now he's a pastor and a cop. We, because of Arbonne, have been able to church plant out here in Colorado. And God's just opened a lot of doors and done a lot of cool things through this company and through my yes. But at the time, I knew I needed to do something to help provide for my family. And I was praying for something. And I was like, well, I can't really pray for like my husband to not be a pastor. That doesn't feel right. I'm like, I don't think God's gonna be like, yeah, sure. Like, no, he doesn't have to do that. So I never said anything to my husband either, because I didn't want to like manipulate any decisions when it came to work. I knew he felt very called to where he was at, but I just couldn't shake this feeling inside of me that there was something more out there. And also that I wanted more for my kids. I wanted to be able to have time and choices and travel together and just different things. And I knew that the track we were on wasn't going to equal that. Right. And so I just started seeking God. Honestly, I started praying for something. And so when my mom's best friend introduced me to Arbonne, I was like, absolutely not, but I will be nice and I'll get on the call. And similar to Ken's, I jumped on the call and I heard Kristen's excitement and passion. And I was like, wait, you make how much? And you do what? And you travel and you like, I was like, okay, like any excuse or hesitation or fear that I had, the hope that this business offered me was worth more than all of it. And so I just want to challenge you, like when people give you excuses or reasons, they're not saying no to you. I think too often as consultants, we kind of back down and we shrink and we play small because somebody says something. I have consultants send me, screenshots of responses all the time. And I'm like, you realize they're not saying no, right? They're just telling you why they're scared. And so if you can start to shift your mindset to they're just sharing their fears with me, you guys, that's what we want. It's not like a knock on you. It's not I hate network marketing. It's not a this, it's not a that. If you actually just confront whatever they're saying and face the fear and like shed light on it, and it's not in a way to try to convince somebody to think differently. It's genuinely in a way because you have a different perspective. You're further along in this business than them, right? They're not doing it yet. They don't know these products. They don't know this community. They don't know what it can offer. And so Kristen really shed light on that for me because, I was like, man, I have this new baby. Like, who starts a new business with a 3-week old? Like who does that? And what is this going to look like? But I knew that she was successful. And my dad always said, if you want to be successful in life, find somebody who's successful and do what they're doing. And so I'm like, all right, put me in coach and tell me what to do. And she would always like tell me, because I would always be like, okay, what are my blind spots? Like I was urgent because I had a 3-week-old baby. And my only answer to not working this business and building this business was going back to work full time. And I really didn't want to put her in daycare. You guys, a little part of my story, we lost a baby before my daughter. And that changed everything for me, like literally everything. I remember thinking like, I'm not going to get married till I'm 30. Maybe I'll have one kid. I'm going to make X amount of money. And then like, I'll get married after that. Like, I mean, not after the kid, but after the career part. And I was like, I'll get married then. And if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans because I got married at 23. And then, 2 months after we found out we were pregnant, we lost that baby. And then a couple months after that, we got pregnant with my daughter, Peyton. And I share that to say like, life can happen and it can completely change your perspective and what you value and what matters to you. And that's what happened to me. And so this business was a gift for that. I mean, honestly, insert Arbonne. And so there might be somebody out there that you're talking to. Just know that they have seasons and you can always ask them to put them on your follow-up list within 3 months because things change, priorities change, people change. But when they give you their fears, make sure that you're really confronting them and talking through them. So I jumped into this business urgently. And I was like, I got to do something with this. And quickly, because I was the girl who wanted grocery money, I wanted to make $1,000 a month. And I started seeing, oh my gosh, this vehicle could help so many. Who else needs $1,000 a month? Like literally, I remember thinking like, there's other people out there that need this. And I called it Arbonne Insomnia. And I do it on my notes, but I used to sleep with a sticky note next to my bed because I would just think of people's names who I could help with this, just go through my brain. And so I want to challenge you, if you're not thinking that way, you're probably thinking too much about yourself. And I don't say that to be mean. I just say that because it's really selfish to keep this gift. And Kenz and I can go on. And I know Danielle and so many people on this call can share about the lives that are changed. You guys specifically, and she's on this call, Cass, I'm going to share your story and I know you won't mind. But you guys, she was struggling with postpartum depression. Like she shares this on social media. She had thoughts of suicide. She didn't think her life was worth living, all the things. And Jordan reached out to her and saw something in her. And she literally, you guys, was so willing and open to change. And now because of Arbonne, it's not the products, it's not the things. She wakes up and she knows life is worth living and she's full of purpose and she's so driven. She's going area call this month, you guys. Like she is so a whole new person and she has joy and she's like loves her husband and her kids and she's like shows up as a better mom. And I just watched this girl overcome obstacle after obstacle because of this business. And so if you're holding the gift back of this business, you're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about other people. And so I just want to challenge you, like there's people out there like Kenz and I that need this business. So Kenz, I'm going to turn it to you. I talked a lot on my story, but I think we're going to kind of transition to community and accountability and why that matters and kind of the story of how we came together.
Yes. Okay. Cassie, I love your story too. And I love that, you guys, she had to be urgent. That was like one of her main reasons for building this business is to be home with Peyton. So I want to ask you, is making like what your goal is right now, is it urgent enough? Because sometimes we have these big ones and it's not like this 30-day, 90-day, 6-month. We're like, okay, someday I want this. This business is going to eventually get here or get there, which is great. But like, what is your urgent goal? What is it that you need? Like right now, like in the next even week, we get paid weekly, you guys, on our personal sales. So like, let your goal have urgency around it. Cassie, I love that you shared that. Okay. So Cassie and I honestly, newsflash, leadership can be lonely. So if you haven't experienced that yet, you probably will at some point. And I was just feeling lonely because to be honest with you, what was in my face was a lot of material incentives. Work for this, get this lifestyle, work for, and on it, I don't know why it just never lit me up. It never got me pumped. So don't let anyone tell you or give you the expectation of what you need to work for. You know that in your heart. For me, this is a ministry and I wanted to just share, help people grow, know they're worthy, loved, and heard, like I said, and know whose they are and who they are. And so I was at the gym one day and I just felt like this overwhelming, like we talk sometimes here, or we did sometimes here and there, like we're always connected. And every time we see each other on trips and stuff, we like can't stay away from each other. But I was like, I'm going to text Cassie because I know we are aligned on so much of what we value. And we're also super disciplined individuals. So I'm going to talk about accountability really quick and how important it is. This girl, Cassie, ignited my fire again. We have done that for one another. And so when I want to challenge you guys, I want you to think on it tonight in the next couple of days. Who can be your accountability partner? They need to match your lifestyle, preferably. I'm not saying that you can't work with someone that doesn't, but like Cassie and I, our kids are around the same age. They're both in school. We're around the same age. We've got husbands who have, demanding work schedules most of the time. We're just similar stages of life, but we also align with our values and our mission. If you don't know that yet, like look on social media or find people that you've seen on calls and stuff and get to know each other's whys. But find an accountability partner that aligns with you on that, because that is super important and it's very, very valuable. And it makes a huge difference. Also, when it comes to discipline, like I knew Cassie was disciplined. I knew she was locked in. I watched her go nation. We went nation together. I knew what K-Dub told Molly at the AIT trip. She literally was like, I don't know if I really want you to introduce Kenzie to Cassie yet. Let me ask some questions first. Like I knew she was a very disciplined person and that's who I wanted to be around. We also made a commitment to each other. We are going to have weekly accountability calls. And you guys absolutely have to do these with your accountability partner, and FaceTime Zooms, not just over the phone. We do Zooms every single week on Thursdays, and we do not cancel unless if there's a family emergency. And if there is a family emergency, we're rescheduling for another time that week. So we don't let each other, but actually, I don't think we've even had that opportunity come up. Like neither one of us, that's just like, we know, we're like, oh, we don't want to be the one that cancels, because we're just locked in, we're disciplined. So we got together. I want you guys to share your whys, your mission with each other, and then have a game plan set in stone. We booked practice call goals. We did, and Cassie's going to go into that. We've done so many things together. We started leading social media, Saturday morning calls, social media with Cass, or social media Saturdays with Cass and Ken's. So we're doing 30 minutes every Saturday morning. I used to do Q&A with Ken's, and now we're focusing on social media, and they've been gold. If you want to do Q&A Q&A calls with your accountability partner and have your team on, and they just ask questions, like then you know what your team needs. Like I didn't know all the things my team needed. I just we assume what our team needs until we're just like, okay, what do you need? And they asked me questions and I was like, what the heck? So that has really helped. And you guys, I'll just like, I think Cecilia said this, is if a neurosurgeon was like, I don't really feel like doing surgery today. Like, I think I'm just going to take the day off. I'm not going to show up. Like, guys, it would not fly. And that's how we treat our business. Like Cassie and I show up, we have shown up. And that's why Danielle, when she explained like the energy, the authentic energy, it's because it's real. Like I've never been more excited in my business. I think probably ever since I've started. And I feel like I'm just starting Arbonne. Like I am so freaking pumped about our future. And so we have some things that we've implemented thanks to Cassie, and just also our collaboration with different things. But she's going to talk about the Thrive in 45 and what we've been doing together. And we've also shared with our team that has been monumental, even for me. Like I started August 20th. I started in a notebook before I got mine in the mail, but I have filled it out since August. I mean, it's literally so much. Like it's all every single day. We send pictures to each other every single day, like, or 5 days a week. We also challenge each other to a Sabbath day. So that's what I'm talking about. Like find somebody that wants the best for you, not just an Arbonne, but your overall well-being. Like that's the type of person that you need to have accountability with. Okay, Cass, you want to talk about Thrive?
Yeah, I do. And the one thing I didn't mention, you guys, I'm also working back to Nation as well. And like, I share that transparently because I think so often we think that our title is our identity, and it's not. We put our worth in our, like, in our value, in our numbers and our titles sometimes. And I just want you to know there's so much more in you. And so I remember when Kenzie reached out and I'm like, yes, like this is like totally a God thing because like, let's do this together, you know? And so I think where like two things, and then I'm going to share the Thrive in 45 and share my screen really quick. But two things with that I think have Ken's and I have added value to each other in that, like, Ken's does coaching calls with her team. And I like lost a lot of leaders. I'm just going to be honest. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, I got to start coaching calls, but I started small. Now my days are so packed with these coaching calls, but it's like this one-on-one time where you can literally just sit with your team and you're like, you think there's people on your team and you think they know what they're doing and they're dialed and styled because they hit X amount of sales and they enroll X amount of people. And then you have these conversations and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I can actually help you with this. Like there's some gaps here. And so I would challenge you, even if it's like once a week for like 4 weeks, like dive deep and build relationships with people. And I know that's a huge testimony to a lot of Ken's sustainability in her business and why, even though she lost Nation, she's still going Nation Call again this month. So I feel like that was a huge thing. And then me, I'm like systems and processes. I want to make sure that people know what to do and they have explanations on like how to do it. And so those two combined have really helped. The first thing I want to say is you have to get crystal clear on your mission and your vision and what you want and when you want it. I just want to say that because the when you want it is really important. If you next month, your goals, even if you're like, oh, it's the 11th and I'm not where I want to be yet, you guys pretend the end of the month is the 15th. And I don't care how far you are, what would you do to get closer to it? And you have to work that way because anything that's worth building, you have to build the consistency and momentum. You guys, I have a girl on my team who was just very sporadic in her business and she would get random results because of it. And she started applying that urgency and her results are drastically different. And so what habits can you kind of shift and change? And typically your mission and vision and who you serve in this business is you 3 to 5 years ago. And so like a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know what to say if I get on social media. I don't know how to share this business. And I'm like, okay, if you were talking to, so I'm going to use my friend AJ as an example, but if you were talking to an ex Division 1 athlete who now works a 9 to 5, hates their job, misses being a part of a team, what would you say? And she's like, well, I know exactly what to say. And I'm like, yeah, because you're talking to who you were like 2 years ago. So I think like when you get on social media, when you're talking to people, don't forget you're not just talking to a screen, you're talking to people. And so pick a person that you're speaking to each day. And I do this intentionally. Who are you connecting with? Who are you asking to do this business? Who's watching you online? Those are the people, those are the stories you want to pick to then like speak to those hesitations, speak to those fears, speak to that lifestyle. And just even if it's for one person, it's really important. So I'm going to share my screen really quick because I want to stay timely. But these are a couple things that we're doing and implementing in our business. I can also send these to Danielle, trying to figure out how to do those. Let me just X this out. Okay, so I could probably make it bigger. These are in the Thrive in 45. I have a workbook. You guys might have your own system. Totally cool. It's on Amazon. I don't make money on it. It's just was cheaper for my team to print it that way. So choose your pace in this business. And so right now, Ken's and I are super huge on practice calls. I remember when Carly Pinchin went Nation, she said she did 120 practice calls, I think. So it was 4 a day. She was like, can you work your business 2 hours a day to go Nation? And so I was like, okay, done. So that's our goal right now is 120 practice calls. I have this little sheet. You can't see me, but I can send this to Danielle too. Mine has a quote on top that says, work for the glory of God and the goodness of others. And it has 120 boxes. Okay. And I'm checking those off as a team every time we're doing our practice calls because we know enrollment and lives changed comes from that. And then this walk, jog, or sprint also came from another success line. But I give this to my team and I'm like, okay, what's your goal? What do you want to hit? And so this kind of breaks it down for them. You can screenshot it. For time's sake, I won't go through it. But it says how many practice calls. So if you're like, I want to sprint, then you need to be doing 30 practice calls. If you're like, I want to walk and I just kind of want to be a district, that's cool, but that's still 10 practice calls. Are you doing that? You know, so make sure that you're still yourself to rise to what you can do in the season of life. And month to month, it might be different, but I like to help people say, okay, this is probably the results that are going to come from your work. Here you go, pick your pace. The thing we do every single day is our Thrive in 45. And so this over here is kind of the formula. Again, this came from somewhere else, but then we just kind of revamped it as a team. I can't take full credit for the Thrive in 45, but I did change a lot of it, pretty much all of it. I kind of just took the concept of the 45 minutes. So I set a timer for 10 minutes each category. And so I actually call it solving my case every single day. So connect, ask, serve, and engage is case. But if you forget the thing, and then affirm, which for me is just like my Bible time or devotional, but for you, it could be a book or affirmations or gratitude. And that's your 45 minutes. So you're going to set your timer for that. And then if you want to ramp up, there's ramp up activities next to that. So you can screenshot this. I won't go super into detail for time's sake. These are the pages of the book. You can do it in your journal. You don't have to buy it. But these are the things. So you pick one thing that you're going to do and you do it for 10 minutes. So connecting, I'm typically connecting with people that are watching my stories, and I'm doing this every single day. And don't be afraid to like go back. Like Kenz and I were consistently doing our Thrive in 45. And then she was like, I actually realized that like there's so many people that I've probably connected with that I need to go back and follow up with. So you can like do your connect piece and then go back through all of the names because you have it all written down. And I did that today, to be honest. And I just revisited those relationships and connections. Another thing is when you know your mission and your vision and you know like how you want to show up, you guys, my whole feed was like high protein recipes and I grew a big following from that. But I don't only want to be the high protein recipe girl. Okay. I love fitness. I love wellness, but like I'm here to grow my business and I'm also here to like love Jesus and like be me. And I think for so long, I like kind of hit from that because I was discouraged in my own life. And they always say your business isn't growing if you don't believe in the product, the business, or like yourself, right? Those are like usually the three things. But for me, to be honest, it was like my belief in God. Like I was surrounded by people who didn't have the same faith as me, and I started to get discouraged. And the very thing that mattered most to me was the thing I wasn't sharing. And so I want to say to you, if you're comparing yourself to other people, and you know, it might not be your faith for you, but what is in you and what are your gifts that you're not sharing because of fear of judgment or other people, or just like maybe you're struggling in your own life. I can tell you, you being vulnerable and transparent is going to make your connection a lot easier because people are going to connect and relate to the things you're posting and sharing. And then they're going to respond back to you. And it's going to make this piece way easy. Asking 10 minutes, I don't need to go through it. You guys can kind of see how it is here, engaging and serving. And so that's like following up, helping your team, checking in with clients, sending somebody a wellness survey, or just like checking in with a 30-day or whatever. So I just wanted to share that really quick, just to give you guys some resources. But we are every single day doing that. And then connecting. Kenz, I'm going to pass it to you and you can talk about excitement in our biz and then we can wrap it up because I know we're short on time.
I will just really touch really quick on how Thrive has changed me. So every resource that I've seen, it's a number of asks, a number of follow-ups, and it always made me feel like I was not doing enough. If I didn't hit 5, if I didn't like it was like, I don't know. I just always carried shame around my activity. And even Kristen Boss, who I love, is like, she talked about the timer. Like, you clock in for a job, right? For a while, when I was struggling in my business, I wrote on a note card at my old house, like the times that I was clocking into my Arbonne business. And it takes 30 minutes for your brain psychologically to warm up and be in flow. So think of it like an oven. It needs to preheat. So spending 40 to 45 minutes on this Thrive every single day, I feel efficient. And then when I'm done with the Thrive in 45, I'm done with Arbonne and I'm present with my kids. And majority of my coaching calls right now is work-life balance. People are stressed. They are like, I don't have enough time. I need to spend time with my husband at night or my kids. And I'm like overwhelmed. Okay, find times to do this. I have Lindsay on my team who drives an hour one way to work each day, and she works full-time doing hair, and her life's insane. She was like, okay, I split up my 2 blocks, 20 minutes, and then my 2 blocks. Don't break up every single one like 4 different times, because the more I have found, the more nooks and crannies, the more my Arbonne brain is turned on all day. And I'm thinking about Arbonne, but I'm not truly working Arbonne and doing income producing activity. And I'm like, oh, why am I so tired? It's like, do it, shut it off, and then do coaching calls and practice calls when they are scheduled. Like it is like that honestly has been the biggest gift to me, is I'm more intentional with my time, my priorities, my family. And it's just totally refreshed my business. Okay. And then really quick to wrap up, we're going to both kind of like bounce off each other here, Cass, fill in whatever you want. But you guys, where is the excitement coming from in our business? That was one of the questions we got asked. It's honestly, it just started with us. And I will say that you can't just cast the vision, you have to carry it. We can all be vision casters. You have to carry it. That means when you don't really feel like being hyped or passionate, you got to suck it up and find a way. You got to figure out why you love Arbonne again. You got to figure out how the products are still, because eventually, just like a relationship, the honeymoon phase eventually wears off, right? Like you have to figure out ways to continue to love that person and keep it spicy and keep it fun and keep it creative. And that's what Cassie was talking about, is like, we have to do that all the time. And so we just decided, like, okay, the energy, the passion, the excitement, it starts with us, and we have to be the ones that carry that. And if that's too much responsibility for you, with great success comes great responsibility. So if you want more success and you want more money, you got to figure it out. That's what a CEO, that's what an entrepreneur, that's what we have to do. And then also I heard, I can't take credit for this, Amy Hazelton, love her. She shared on our call last night, our team call, and she said, B+ work. Be okay with B+ work. And y'all, I needed to hear that because I'm a perfectionist. And if everything's not going perfect in my life like, it's just chaos. I am like, well, it's not A+, so I just won't do it at all. Or like, sometimes we chase that A+ perfection, social media, business, coaching calls, leadership, DAs, all the things. B+ work is good enough. And A+ work, A+ sprints prevent you from the character build. So allow yourself to be humbled enough, set your ego aside to do the B+ work. If it, like, the consistency is the most important part, and you're going to have B+ effort sometimes, and that is good enough in this business. And it's just like the gym. Not every workout I go and do is top notch A+, an hour and a half to 2 hours long. Sometimes it's 30 to 45 minutes, but that consistency compounded anyway. And the next thing I have to say is, oh, this was so good. I heard this at a retreat, Valerie Edwards retreat. I forgot who said it. But when you say yes to this business, you are committed to your team. You're committed to the people that are watching you. So when you quit or you take breaks, you're giving up on them too. And I mean that with love. When you take breaks or you're not committed, when people say yes after you, client and consultant, you are saying, I'm going to quit on you too. And honestly, majority of the super dark, horrible seasons in my life, that is what kept me going, is my team is counting on me. I have to go. I have to do the things because I can't quit on them, because I know their wives. I know their kids. I know their hubby. I know how miserable they are, what they need. I'm not quitting on them. So if you have a inkling or like a nudge to take a break or whatever, take small breaths, have a Sabbath day. That's something Cassie and I hold. We kind of like laugh about it sometimes because we're like, oh, my Sabbath day, I did the laundry. We're like, Cassie, take a break. But it's like, you guys, that is life-changing when you just know, like, your yes is so powerful, and your breaks and quitting is not just on yourself. And I see this happen a lot, and it breaks my heart when they leave their team, or they leave their success line, or the people that they took care of, their preferred clients, with this amazing gift, and they just are gone. It's like, what? No, you are constantly committed to them, and their life changed as well. Cassie, I want you to like share a little bit like on excitement too.
Yeah, I think honestly, you have to find somebody that can be a mentor. And here's what I want to say on the thing. Like, we did talk about it, matching your discipline, not a mentor, but just like a sideline that you can just like run with, who you have similar things. Because there's been seasons, and I'm sure all of us have at times tried to have accountability partners. And if you're the only one accountable in that one relationship, it doesn't work. I've had that where I'm like, okay, I think I'm the only one showing up here, and you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. And so make sure that if you agree to be somebody's accountability partner, you actually are their accountability partner, and you actually are holding yourself to a higher standard too. Because I promise you, you might not always rise for yourself, but you'll rise for other people, especially the moms on this call. We always rise for other people, And so I think that was one of the biggest things. And just know that I heard a quote from Craig Rochelle, and it said, I'm going to butcher it, but it said that God won't do anything that your character can't sustain. And so I just want to tell you that, like, and I know it's not sexy to be like, you have to build character to like grow leaders and be that person, but like, so much, because the character you build, if you're not sharing on social media, if you're not talking to people, people assume shop is closed, business is closed, and that's it, even if it's just one day. And so just know that your energy matters, showing up matters, and you're building character and habits that you can build and then duplicate. If you had somebody on your team, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll be done. But if you had somebody on your team doing every single thing that you were doing right now, how big would your organization be? how big would it be? And if you're like, it'd probably be the same size, it's probably a pretty good gut check that you got to switch some things around, right? And if you're like, oh my God, I'd love for people to do what I'm doing, awesome, keep doing it and do it for a year. Like, because it takes time to grow and build. So thank you so much for having us. I know we started a little bit late and now we're a little over on time. But I'm so grateful for this business. I'm so grateful for you, Danielle, and just thanks for having us on.
Oh my gosh, don't apologize for being over. I think this group would sit and listen to you guys for 30 more minutes. That is exactly what I wanted from you guys, because like, I knew that there was just so much gold inside of the two of you. And my phone's already blowing up. I just want to say, first of all, thank you guys for being transparent and for being the kind of leaders that are willing to fight through the hard. I think this is what just separates a lot of I don't want to just say in Arbonne, because I know that some of the people in your position in Arbonne aren't working to get their nations back and aren't choosing to do the hard work. And what you guys are going through right now and your vulnerability and just sharing that with us is making us as a community better. And like, I can totally see the two of you, just the way you like pass the baton on this Zoom. I'm like, main stage trainers together someday. Like, mark my words, you guys are gonna do a killer training together someday. But I love what you guys, honestly, everything that I have like a whole page of just like bullet points, but I feel like you summed it up to like 3 things. We've got to have clarity, you guys, on where we're going, what we want, when we want it. You guys have a rock solid mindset. So you have your clarity, you have your mindset, you know that it takes hard work, you know that it starts with you. We know that we're ultimately in control of the actions we do or we don't do. And so many people let our feelings dictate that. And then the third thing that I feel like you just kind of summed up is that you're choosing to show up every single day, but authentically. And I think that's what makes this fun. Like, I don't want people to be burnt out. I don't want people to choose Arbonne over their family. And I think that we were in a stage, 4 or 5 years ago when everything went virtual, where it just became like this rat race a little bit. And I want to be able to say no to some things so that I can put my family first. And I want to do my 45 minutes and turn it off for the day. So thank you guys for just sharing that consistency and that focus for just chunks. We have to show up daily, but you can turn it off. And so if you're in this cycle in your business where you feel like you are constantly on and you are drained and you are burnt out, it does not have to be this way, you guys. Cassie, if you send me your stuff. So we actually do, I've heard of Thrive in 45. We took the original Success in 60 from Kristen Boss. I think the Thrive in 45 is just kind of a revamp of that, but I actually love that so much more. And I love your workbook. So I didn't know the workbook was available to everybody. If you send that, I know a lot of our girls do the 90 Strong journal. I also know a lot of people don't love that journal because it does just feel like so many checklists and falling short sometimes. So I would love to have access to your journal for those that want it. And there was one more thing I was going to say. I'm just looking at my notes here. I think that's it. So you guys, thank you so much. We are cheering you on to MVP Qual this month, finishing up next month, and we'll all be in. I will buy you guys a cocktail in Maui in January. Let's do it. So you guys, thank you so much for your time. Thanks guys for being on. I'll get the recording posted, and I hope you guys just have a fantastic week. So thanks guys.